Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first Lastics Live Chats. We're so excited to get this new thing started. My name is Emma. I'm one of the Lastics professors. We don't teach at the university. I'm Emma. I'm one of the teachers that work for Donna Flagg and Patty. They are the masters behind the scenes, and with me today is my sister Lizzie.
Hey.
She's been doing some Lastics with me, and we're just gonna have a little chat about sort of what Lastics is and to elucidate some of the myths around stretching, because there's quite a few of them. A little background about me is I grew up as a dancer. We grew up in a very dancey household. And I moved to New York about 3 years ago and started taking Lastics from Donna, and it has completely changed my whole world. I was always a strong dancer. I was never a flexible dancer. And when I first started doing Lastics, I always thought that I would never be flexible. And since doing Lastics, I've gained inches where I thought I would never have anything. Like, I used to barely be able to touch my toes, and now when I bend over, I can put my whole palm on the floor, and it's pretty amazing.
We didn't get very flexible genes.
No, we didn't. We got some strong genes, thanks Mom, but not so flexible.
Yeah, I remember you talking about Lastics, and I had no idea what it was, and then we all did it as a family. Mm-hmm. And our dad had been complaining about back pain for who knows how long.
Like 3-4 months. He pulled his back muscle.
And then we all did Lastics, and suddenly he had a chipper in his step, and
he was like, my pain vanished.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, I mean, for quarantine, it's so hard to get moving, and so Lastics has been really fun. I've taken maybe like 5 or 6 classes with you, and it's been really nice to even just share the small things that I've learned with people who don't stretch at all, which brings me to my first question. I don't really have a lot of experience stretching, and I feel like it's really common that people have no idea how to stretch beyond just touching their toes. Is that true?
Yes, that is very true. And I see that for 2 reasons. People either don't really know how important stretching is. They think it's just sort of a thing, like you kind of go like, huh, and then you can go for your run. Or they're very intimidated by stretching. They know that it's important, but you can get things wrong, and then you can get injured, and there's so much information out there because it's really, really complicated. And so Lastics is a great way to give yourself all of the safe information, and that's the most important thing, is to find a stretch that focuses on safety. And so I think that is the truth, that people really don't know how to stretch.
I mean, in my world, a lot of people do a lot of yoga for safe stretching, or even Pilates, but I just didn't really like yoga, and does that mean I would like Lastics if I didn't like yoga?
I don't know if it means that you will immediately like Lastics if you didn't like yoga, but and we have a whole other episode coming later about Lastics versus yoga, so come back and see that one. But the main thing that I like to tell people is that yoga was developed by a community that squatted versus Lastics was developed by a community that sits. So the stretches are different. They're going to target different things, and they do feel different. They do. And so if you're not a yoga person, Lastics might be a really great way to get that stretching in addition to strengthening. If you're a person that's overstretched, it also, like, we're more on the strength side rather than the stretch side. But if you are a person that is very bendy, Lastics actually is really unique in that it also will help strengthen overstretched muscles. So it's a really good balance no matter where you are.
So I'm not really a dancer at all, and I get scared when I start to stretch beyond, the classics, touching my toes, or even especially I get scared when I'm stretching my back because I don't know if that pain is good pain or if it's bad pain. And how does Lastics help me tell the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good one. So when you stretch, you will feel a sensation. If it is a really sharp sensation, back off. That's usually an indicator that something might not be what it should be. And disclaimer, I'm just a dancer. I'm not a doctor. If you feel something is really wrong, please consult someone from the health profession. But just in your day-to-day stretching, if you feel something, a really sharp pain, you should back off and then target areas around that. For example, when I was younger and I would lay on my back and then bring my leg up to me, I felt like hot needles in my knee. Right in one spot.
Was it just on one side?
It was just one side.
It's always just on one side.
And that made me really nervous, but I backed off. I stretched every area around my knee, and now I'm much more flexible, no pain, and I never injured my knee, knock on wood. That brings me to my second point that's really important for stretching is when you stretch, you want to feel it more in your deep and meaty muscles rather than in your joints. So unless you're doing a very specific, very targeted stretch. For example, our knees, everybody's like, oh, I have, like knee things, knees are weird. Knees are very weird. They actually don't have that many muscles. They're more connective tissues, bone, cartilage. So it's like really hard to stretch your knee. Yes. What you want to do is stretch around the knee in order to then let the whole system relax. And that's the important thing with muscles is you want strength and stretch. It's a balance, and you don't want to have too much of one or the other, and that's where you risk injury.
So for those of you who are just joining this live stream, I'm chatting with my sister, Emma, who has taught me some Lastics, and we're just doing a little live stream to get to know more about this really interesting new stretching form. I have another question for you. So you've done Lastics for how many years now?
About 3.
About 3 years. And what has been the biggest change that you've seen in your body, in your mobility since doing Lastics?
The biggest change that I've seen has been my hip flexors.
Where are your hip flexors?
Your hip flexors are right at the crease when you're sitting, at the crease between like your torso and your legs.
Okay.
And when I would do like when you're doing abs and you do like a bicycle, every time my hips would pop, there'd be like a plunk, plunk sort of feeling in the front of my hips.
And what is that popping?
My understanding is that's the muscle going over your bone because it's a little too tight. It's not a huge problem, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just a concern for me. Now because of Lastics, I do not feel that at all. It's loosened my hip. It's balanced, not loosened. It is balanced my hip flexors and all of those muscles so that when I do, and that's not a very dancer specific move.
Right.
That's a pretty universal move that lots of people do. And I think, and especially everybody sits at a computer, especially now in quarantine.
Yeah.
So those can get really tight. So that has been the biggest change that I've noticed that has completely revolutionized how I feel about exercising.
So, what are your favorite Lastic stretches that you feel are really unique to Lastics?
I have 2.
2? Okay.
So my number one favorite is we're in a 4th position, seated on the floor. So you have one leg bent in front and one leg bent behind. You've done this one with me, and then you lean back.
Are like this. Okay.
And then you lean back, and you engage your lower abdominal muscles, and you push your knee down into the floor. That's very important because we don't want to bust knees. Okay. And that's what gets that muscle. And I have not found any. I've done Pilates, I've done gyro, I've done yoga, I've done all the other. I've done Alexander. Well, that's not really stretch.
Okay.
But I've done all these other forms, and they all have wonderful things to offer, but this is the only one that I've found that actually gets that muscle, which we use so much.
And even when we're not dancing.
Even when we're not dancing, and even when we don't even need it. It's like, I want to help.
So it's always engaged.
And hard to stretch. So that's my number one favorite. My number two favorite is, and if you ever take my class, you'll see these pop up a lot because they're my favorite, and I think they're very helpful for everyone across the board, is we sit in a second position, we tilt over to the side, slide our hip down, and lengthen this whole side. And when I was growing up, that was always a hamstring stretch. Like when you sit in a straddle and you go over, that was a hamstring stretch.
Right.
But now that actually gets into my low back, and that's what I did with Dad because I have pain in my back, and that's the one we stretched, and that's what made him feel better. And so those are my two favorite stretches that we do in Lastics.
So how was Lastics created? Because you said yoga's been around for thousands of years. Why would you say that Lastics is so important for today?
Well, actually, it was developed by our founder, Donna Flagg. She was a dancer. Her? Yes, of course. Donna's amazing.
Okay.
The Lastics community is small, but we're growing. Donna is amazing. If you ever get a chance to take a class from her, it will rock your world.
Ooh, I have to take a class from her.
Yes, you have not taken from Donna. She's amazing. Anyways, she was a professional dancer, and then she ran into some health issues, and it sort of limited her active life. And so she started doing things that felt good for her body, and she found that it really helped, and she started doing it with other people, and she found that it really helped them as well. It didn't matter if you were a professional dancer or an athlete or a person that doesn't identify as either one. And it really helped her deal with a lot of her chronic health pain. And later, one of our other amazing instructors, Blondine, will be doing a whole Lastics Chat devoted to chronic pain. So if you're interested, please come back and hear her amazing story and how Lastics has helped her navigate her chronic pain.
And when will that chat be?
Well, we'll have to check the schedule and see.
Cool. For those just joining us, I'm talking with my sister, Lizzie, about...
No, you're Lizzie. I'm Emma.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I'm talking with my sister, Emma.
There we go.
Oh, my gosh.
About like Mom.
About Lastics, which is this amazing stretch technique that I've just discovered. And my sister has been teaching me some crazy stuff about it. So when I'm stretching at home without you helping me, what should I focus on to get the best absolute stretch?
So when you first start stretching, you want to get blood flowing through your muscles.
Okay.
So that how you do that depends on your body and what you like.
Okay.
For some of my more active friends, that's jumping jacks or a jump rope. For some of my more dancey friends, they're like, I can't even do a plie until I've touched my toes. Whatever it is, you want it to get blood moving through your muscles, and you want to start waking them up before you go into anything super intense. If you want to improve your flexibility the most, if you're one of the okay, we're back. Temporary hiccup. Yay quarantine Zoom world. If you are understretched and you want to really improve your flexibility, actually the time that you will most improve your flexibility is when they are warm. So after you exercise.
Okay.
If
So
you're just
I should go for a run and then do stretching? Okay.
If you're understretched, that's usually what I recommend.
Okay.
If you're overstretched, then I would use Lastics to warm your body up in a safe way to start strengthening your muscles.
Okay. And so I've only taken Lastics for a couple times, but if it's my first time coming into a class and I've never stretched before and I really don't know anything about it, what should I expect walking away from my first class?
From your first class, you should expect to walk away feeling calm and energized at the same time.
Kind of sounds like mindfulness.
It's similar to mindfulness and not similar. Like, I've done both, and so you do sort of get this zen feeling afterwards because you've spent time in your body and not in your brain. But it is not similar to mindfulness in that we don't focus on breathing or any sort of meditation. Like, that's a different thing, which you in your own practice, if you want to do that, absolutely go for it.
Right.
But walking away from a Lastic class, you will walk away, I guarantee, feeling lengthened, like your muscles have been combed out with conditioner, leaving no knots and no kinks. That's what Donna always says, and so that's what we always say at the end of every Lastics class.
What are your favorite little isms about the class?
Oh, well, it's really that end phrase that is just so great, and that phrase is, imagine your muscles have been combed out with conditioner, leaving no knots and no kinks. The bones are stacked underneath you with air and space in between them. Muscles wrap around the bones to protect and support them.
Ooh,
that's
nice.
What Lastics really is. And you feel it. You really, no matter where you are on the spectrum of stretching, you will feel that.
So if I keep doing Lastics maybe once or twice a week for, I don't know, 6 months, what kind of change can I expect in my body?
That depends on how you come in. If you come in overstretched, and when I say overstretched, I mean a person that has spent a lot of their time and energy stretching.
Like they can get their leg up here.
Yes. Traditionally ballet dancers, contortionists, things like that. If you belong to that camp, what you will see is an improvement in your strength.
Okay.
If you are one of the more understretched folks, like me, you should see an improvement in your flexibility, whether that's inches or just muscles releasing. Like, I haven't seen a change in my hips because hips don't really move the way like a leg does.
Right.
But I feel it. There is an improvement, and my hips feel more loose. Another example is when I first started Lastics, my calf muscles were just tight. My gastrocnemius just felt, which is right at the back of your calf, felt like a tennis ball when I would poke it, even when it was at rest. And now it feels kind of squishy, which is what muscles should feel like. Like it's not just blob, but it's not, when it's not engaged, it shouldn't feel like a knot. And so I've seen a huge improvement as a result of Lastics in my calf muscles. So they feel like muscles and they don't feel like a tennis ball.
Do you feel like Lastics is a bit more inclusive of a stretching form than, say, yoga or Pilates?
I hope so. I've felt that way myself. I don't know about other people. I mean, and you can speak to this. If you feel like, do you feel like it's more inclusive?
I mean, I definitely do, because I live with a lot of jazz majors, and they're in their instrument all the time, and I know that they want to stretch, but you know, yoga, the first time doing downward dog is really intense.
You've never done it before.
Yeah, or even Pilates has a ton of really intense movement, and I think Lastics is so cool because it can be small. You can start out small. If the position doesn't work out for you, you can just ask your instructor and just go into an easier pose. So it can be anywhere from really delicate and beginner to really intense. I've never really felt my back muscles light up like that until we did, let's see, I think it was the one stretch where we went over. And then when we came back up, on one side, it was so...
You feel like this.
Yeah.
You definitely feel like this.
So illuminated.
You're like, oh my gosh.
And on the other side, it felt so tight compared to that. So, yeah, that's why I think Lastics is so cool, is because you
hear.
can do it with the whole family.
Yeah.
And
we did do it with the whole family.
And also I definitely feel like there's not quite so much intimidation going into the class, because even if you are really flexible, it just means you're slightly lower to the floor rather than some type of dance class or Pilates where your legs are going to be way up here and my legs going to be down there. So that's another reason why it's kind of exciting to just start out doing that. And do you have any final thoughts about Lastics?
Yeah, I think the best thing if you're starting out stretching is to make it really fun. Oh no, the sun is in my eyes. Anyways, I think that the best thing to do is to make it fun. So whether that's, for me, it's listening to music, whether it's coming to a class, if you make it fun, you'll want to do it.
Right.
You know,
right, yeah.
and if it's work, you won't want to do it.
Right.
So I think that the best thing that Lastics has given me personally is a framework to stay safe, because it's active muscle stretching.
And there's also a professor there,
a teacher. We're just in university mode. It's fine.
There's a teacher who you can ask about, like, oh, is this right? Is this wrong? Instead of like a phone app where there's no relationship. Yeah,
that is a big thing. I've seen people when they start exercising, they just go out for a run.
Right.
You know,
Simple.
whereas stretching is more complicated. So I think that once you have that base knowledge, and you can get that from Lastics very easily, like it's the big thing is what I call a 2-dimensional stretch. And that is where you send energy in one direction and then in another, so that it's an active, not passive stretch. So that keeps you safe, and it's fun to take a stretch class, like
it is fun.
Stretching class, not like an exercise class. It's a stretch class, which is very unique. We play music, and that has encouraged me to stretch on my own, because I have the music that we listen to in class, I get the playlist, and then I do it at home. So that would be my big thing, is find a way to make it fun for yourself, so that it's a good feeling.
So for anybody who's tuned in and has not taken a Lastics class, Emma, how could somebody find out all the information?
So you can either just follow this Instagram page, all of our classes. I'm gonna get cozy with you.
Yeah,
there we go, because I'm like in the sun. There we go. Hey sissy, what's up? You can follow this Instagram page. All of our class information is here. You can head to lastics.com. Actually, one of the good things to come out of quarantine is we now have online classes. It used to be that if you weren't in New York or close, because Lastics is a small, growing practice, if you weren't in New York before, it was kind of hard to get to it. But now, no matter where you are, we have students in Brazil. I've had students from Alaska. They just tune into Lastics, and you can come at any time. We have amazing instructors, and everybody has a little bit of a different style, so feel free to play or hop into different classes, because Blondine is very different from Jamie, is very different from Angela. We all have our own things that we like to focus on. So just head to lastics.com, follow us on Facebook, really any of those things, and you'll have all the info that you need to have a safe and healthy stretch.
Well, I'm excited to stretch now. Yeah. I got my yoga pants on.
Are we going to do some stretching?
Maybe. That sounds really good.
I'm always down to stretch. That sounds amazing.
For everybody tuned in, thanks so much for joining us. And we're signing off, but there's going to be another live chat soon.
Yep, this same time next week. And we hope to see you all there. Thank you all so much for joining us for our first ever Lastics Chat.
Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, stay safe and stay sane.
All right, signing off.
Bye.
Bye.